How's it, Oaks? You know, I've been thinking I want a badge on the front here somewhere, and the thing is I don't have one. So I'm just gonna have to make one. Stick around and I'm gonna show you how I do it. Something like that. I'm just writing it here on my bench with a piece of chalk to get an idea. I've used the original badge, the picture of that original Chevrolet badge as inspiration. And now the plan is to use this wire that I found on my pile of scrap to make the letters from. It measures about 4 millimeters thick. So the idea is now to bend the letters out of the wire. Let's see how that works out. Okay, I've got my pair of big old farm pliers and I'm starting to use that to bend up my first letter, the C. I've also marked here on my bench 2 lines. That is roughly the size of the letters I want, so that it fits the grill. And I'm going to use that to make sure that the letters is about the size that I need. I think my C is kind of there. I'm just going to mark now where I would like to cut it off so I can start the next letter. Okay, now I can start to work on the next one, the H. I need the vise to help me with bending some of these letters. There we go. A little bit more. Okay, that's where I am so far. My H is just a straight piece, and there's the next part of it. I'm going to cut here now to start my E. I'm just doing this freehand, but you could always go and look up the original badge or whatever, the letters, find a font type you like on a computer, print it, maybe scale it even to the correct size you want, and then you can work off of that and use it as a template. I'm just going with the flow. I think I need to cut off somewhere here for my E so that I can connect into my E. I'm wanting to cut that point somewhere here. Yeah, I guess it's probably safer to go stick it in the vise to cut it off with the grinder. I'm not going to use the pliers to cut it. The grinder just gives me a nice clean cut. Okay, E in progress. Use the vise, pliers, hammers, whatever is required to shape these letters. I'm just gonna see, can you see? Man, squeeze it a bit. I think I'm almost there. My E is not quite cooperating with the where I had it before, so yeah, I'm just going to use, I'm using a drill bit clamped in the vise, and I'm just going to bend it around that to help me with my curve a little bit. Let's see. I think that is probably closer to what I want. It's starting to take shape, I think. Right, so I need to think about my V I must cut it off here somewhere, make a mark somewhere there. And okay, back to the vise, I suppose, to cut it off with my grinder. So let's do that. The V is pretty easy. And I've also left it long here for now. I can always trim it back later, there's no problem with that. If you look carefully, you'll also notice that I did do my cuts at angles so that everything just goes together much better. And you can always fine-tune those angle cuts to get the pieces to line up nicely. So that's where I am so far. I made the Y into 2 pieces. Currently I can see the letters are getting a little bit bigger as we go that way, but that's no problem. I can just cut it off here at a later stage. But my Y is not connected to my V, and I want all the letters connected, so I don't know, I need to make a tiny little piece that must go in there. One by tiny piece that's refusing to cooperate. I don't know if this plan is going to work, so I'm going to start with my next step, which is going to be quite tricky, I think. I'm first going to weld together some of these letters and then see what I'm going to do here. Just to give a sense of scale, the letters is about 20 millimeters high. To my American friends, that's about 3/4, just a little tiny tad over 3/4 of an inch. So it's not very big. It's I suppose quite delicate work. I'm going to tack weld my first 2 letters together. I've got my amps cranked up quite a bit, so let's go. That didn't work, it moved. So let's do it properly. I've got my table cleaned up with the grinder for better earthing. I've got my letters held in place with 2 magnets. Now it's going to be good. Voila! My first 2 letters are together. Next lady for a shave. Let's do the next part of the H, is it? Yeah. Okay, I've got my H, E. Let's go. E's in place. D. Okay, I see this letter stands a bit high. I'm just going to put it in a vise to bend it down a little bit. Okay, so the first 3 letters, is it? C, H, E is held together with and down nicely on the table with the magnets. I'm going to do my V now. Whoa. So far so good. I got Chev. I'm going to set up my Y now. Something like this. In case you're wondering about my magnets, it's just actually pieces of an old speaker. You know, the back part of the old speaker that's got that magnet, circular magnet. I just whack it off with a hammer so I could have these pieces. Okay, I think that piece must be something like that. magnet, keep it there for a while. And my tiny little other piece, which is wanting to fly all over the place now. Let's see, how does that look? It's not too bad. So let's see if I stick it in there somewhere. Does that work? Hoppa, delicate operation. Let's see. It's not wanting to stay. Maybe I should put this guy flat. Yes, I think that's better. I'm just going to move my other piece out again. Come on. It's tricky. I'm going to try and see the bigger picture through the magnets. But yeah, I think maybe that could work. Maybe I must just need this guy a little bit down. Yes, let's give it a shot. I can always, once I've tack welded it, bend the pieces a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Yes, I think that's going to work. Now I've just got to think about that final connection in there. Yes, I wonder what happened to my other little piece. It's obviously gone missing in action. MIA. Maybe I should just weld it together. Yes, I think I'm not going to bother with that tiny little piece. It's just going to give me endless trouble. It's quite hot here. Ow. So I think what I'm going to do is to simply try and weld it together. I'm just going to make a little bit of a weld there. My table is cast iron, so the weld won't stick to the table. Normally it doesn't. Let's give it a shot. Something like that. What do you think? Needs a bit of fine tuning. Yeah, so I'm just going to maybe clean it up a little bit. I think I'm going to turn it around as well. Just tack weld the back sides to make it stronger. Okay, so I'm just going to give it some tacks on the back side as well. Cleaning it up a little bit. Stay down. Okay. Right. Okay, so the plan now is to fine tune it. I'm going to grind it a little bit. It's a bit messy here at the moment, so I probably have to get in there with a grinder or a file, clean it up a bit, make it look a bit prettier, remove a little bit of metal, make it all just nicer. And looking at it now, I actually think I don't like my C anymore. I actually would like my C to be a little bigger, to come down below this level. Something more like that. So I might cut my C off and redo it. Let's see. I gave it a quick once over with the flap disc just to get it to come out and shine a little bit. I think we're getting there. Obviously needs more work. You can see there where the welds are. There's too much material and it's not looking so nice, but I'm going to take that off with files, grinders, whatever is needed. Might have to cut it off a little bit here, maybe cut it a little bit there. And you know what, I still think I need to make my C slightly bigger. Okay, I bent up another C, slightly larger than my existing one. I'm liking it better. So I'm just going to cut the old C off. And something like that. Yes, I like that a lot better. I think that looks good. I'm going to weld him on. I must just switch on my machine. Okay, let's do it. Excellent, and the other side. Right, I think I'm pretty much done. I'm going to cut this off a little bit. I think it's too long. And then I'm just going to spend some time with files and grinders to clean up my welds a little bit and get the nice flowy letters to stand out better. So a standard file doesn't fit in here. So I'm going to use a little needle file so I can get in there. So I just want to smooth out the welds now to get the metal to flow nicely. So yes, it's going to take a while to clean up all the welds and the little corners and edges. So I'm sure you don't want to watch me doing that. So I'm just going to finish it up. And then after spending 45 minutes on it with the files, I also had to do a few places where I still had to add a little bit of welding. Yeah, I guess this is the kind of thing that you can mess with until you're sick of it or until you're happy, whichever comes first. Anyway, I think we need to keep in mind what it's for. It's not an attempt at replication perfectly of an original badge. It's after all just for the rat rod. I'm pretty happy with it. These are the tools I used. A little needle tail file, flat half round, another needle file, round tapered round, a rat tail file, and a second cut flat half round. Now we got to think about fitting it. I've got two thoughts in my mind. One is if you wanted to fit it on a back plate, you could mark some holes and then just spot weld it from the back. But I'm not going to do that. I think what I'm going to do is I've got some 4mm bolts or set screws. I just want to spot weld them onto the back. Something like that if he wants to stay there. He doesn't. One here and one there somewhere. I've welded on my 4mm set screws to act as studs. As you can see. So now I can attach it to the grill shell. I think it's going to work well. Let's have a look. Yes, I think that's nice. And you know what? I thought I would add that as well. What do you think? I gave this a light sanding with some 220 paper I had floating around. Yes, I guess you can really go to town if you want and make it all shiny. But it's steel, so it's gonna rust. So yeah, now you have to make a call on the finish you want. I guess you could paint it. If you spend enough time on the finish, you could plate it or even chrome it. But it's for my rat rod, so I'm just going to give it my linseed oil finish. And if the rust does flash through a little bit, why not? It's just a rat rod after all. Okay, there's one thing left to do. I must mount it on a grill shell, so it could go there. Or possibly there. Or maybe even down there. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And we'll see which is the most popular choice. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.